What does a moose represent to you?
Oof. That is a really good question. Moose represent Maine, to me, you know? They really do. They're a big symbol of what Maine is.
Moose is Maine. It's, you know, it's moose and lobster.
It's the Maine icon.
It's an icon.
A moose represents a lot of freedom.
It's freedom.
Freedom?
Independence.
Probably independence.
Maybe independence.
Resourcefulness.
Well, moose is my favorite animal.
Just the Maine woods.
The king of the North Woods.
The heart and soul of Maine.
An iconic, amazing creature.
A reason to visit Maine.
They're like gentle giants, like walking along.
Moose represents to me my heritage.
Represents home.
Majestic mammal.
Majestic.
Majestic.
That big majestic animal that's out there in the swamps and the bogs is seen as a symbol of the state of Maine. They are Maine.
A moose represents to me a lot of different things, and I think that over time that's really changed. When I really look back at sort of where moose started for me, moose represented a hunt. As beautiful and wonderful as that is, I've come to realize that moose impact everyone that's encompassed in the state in one way or another. There's a wide range of perspective. They're all important. So the management of moose becomes really the reflection of our community. We all play a very important part of sort of that governing process. We have the IF&W who's engaged in making scientific-based conclusions and recommendations on how to manage the species. And then we have a community that has its own ideas and priorities. I think when you put the two together, it's really our responsibility to be the guardian of the giants.
My name is Lee Kantar. I'm the state's moose biologist for the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. I'm a trained wildlife biologist, and I'm fortunate enough to spend all my time, 100% of my time, focused on moose. There's really four important things I want to know about moose, and that is, how many moose are there out there? Of those, how many bulls, cows, and calves? I want to know something about productivity, how many calves are born every year. And then I want to know something about mortality. When I talk to the public, one of the biggest questions, or maybe the first question they always want to know, is how many moose are there? And on the surface that seems pretty straightforward, pretty easy to answer, but it's actually a very challenging question. When I came on, we had this moose estimate that we put on our website every year that was in the 20,000, 23,000 range. When I had started to build up our aerial survey program, we came up with a much bigger number. And that really caused a lot of angst among people because people were seeing less moose out there. And here I come out as a new moose biologist saying there's a lot more than that. As time goes on, we have new technologies, we have other resources that we can apply to trying to learn about moose so we can manage moose for all the people in the state of Maine. We're going to go out and we're going to collect all kinds of data that is critical to understanding moose. And we're going to do it in the most objective way we can, and that's called science.
Starting in January, the department conducts 3 different aerial studies: the calf survival study, the comp count, and the podvin survey. There's a significant amount of planning that goes into place. Not only is there a team in the air, but there's a ground crew that endures extreme conditions and has to give support to the aerial work that's being done.
In 2014, we started to look at adult cow and calf survival. And we did that by putting GPS collars on adult cows and calves in 2 different management units. When the crew captures a moose, the first thing they do is put a blindfold on it, put hobbles on it. The moose is fairly calm at that point. They'll weigh that moose, so we get a live weight of that animal. And they'll typically do the tick count on the shoulder and rump. They'll collect blood and fecals. They'll put the GPS collar on the moose, put ear tags on it, and then they remove the hobbles and the blindfold and give it a push, and off it goes back to the cow. And that process takes really just a few minutes. It's a fairly quick processing of the animal. Podvin survey we conduct in a helicopter, and it's 60 meters above ground and looking out 60 meters. We have 2 observers on the same side of the helicopter, one in the front, one in the back, and every time we see a moose, we're telling a 3rd biologist what those moose are and what they're doing. And we do that 7 times, and that creates a 100 square mile area that's going to represent what we count for moose. So we also do a second helicopter survey. We call it a comp count. It's one thing to know how many moose there are, but we also want to know the number of bulls, cows, and calves. And so that gives us a bull to cow ratio or juvenile to cow ratio. Very important to know when you know how many moose are in an area.
They call this Lucky Loop Road. I don't know why, but pretty lucky for moose. That little calf is so cute. They must have been born right after I saw her because they're already changing color. One of my goals is always to leave before they do.
That's good. That's a nice goal.
Usually works.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's the feeling that I'm always chasing.
I can understand it.
I have a photography Facebook page that really has become a moose page for all intents and purposes. And people all around the world have found those images there and appreciate them. And so that's part of my day-to-day is posting a moose in the morning. There's something about spending time with an animal that large in silence and just sharing that space that I've never experienced in any other kind of wildlife interaction. It's just really special to me. Posting throughout the year and moose going through their incredible change that they go through, from antler development to drop off in the bulls, and what we've been seeing with the calves specifically and winter tick infestation. It's been really fascinating to post an image with maybe some description, maybe not, and be able to respond to the comments of people who are either oblivious to what they're actually seeing or why it's happening, but be able to come in with an explanation that maybe helps to change their mind. Why are ticks here, and what could we be doing, and all of the things that seem like good ideas maybe around your yard, but when you're talking about millions of acres in the North Woods, probably don't translate. So being able to have those conversations, it's very fulfilling to get that kind of on top of the experience that I get to have with them.
Everybody wants to have as many moose as they can because it's an iconic critter. Everybody loves to see them. They love to hunt them. But if you're going to manage a population of moose, you have to do it in a responsible scientific way. And Lee Kantar, the wildlife biologist, I think it's a challenge for him to make people understand that the new wild card in the moose population is the tick. The winter tick has ravaged our calf population, and that changes with every year, changes with the climate and temperature and so forth. But I think looking down the road, we may have to be able to manage with less moose in order to control the tick population, which is in some cases is killing off 50% of our young moose every year. It's a big problem, and it's something that has to be carefully managed.
The biggest threat to the moose population in the state, unfortunately, is winter tick. They go into winter in their best condition for a calf, and then they got to deal with winter, and they got to deal with a mountain of ticks on them, and survive that to get to green up in their first birthday in May. The last 2 decades, it's really become a significant problem for moose. When a GPS collared moose dies, we go in, recover that moose, and systematically do a dissection of that animal to figure out the cause of death.
Let me do this. Okay.
That's good. And now we'll see.
That's smaller than some big bucks that are harvested.
Yeah,
and this is live weight too.
Yeah, this is live weight.
We weigh the moose, which is really critical because we have the weight at capture, so it's live weight at capture, and we weigh it at mortality, and that differential is really important because it tells you the significant amount of weight that this animal can lose.
Lee mentioned that back here, the hair is, very independent of one another and very, very easy to move. Here it's like tacky and sticky, which is indicative of the feces of tick.
That's what all this is.
That's feces. That's an engorged.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
That's a fully engorged adult tick right there that I just pulled off.
Part of the necropsy is to look externally at all the things that are going on. Where did it die? The position it laid in. We typically do a winter tick count. Sometimes we collect the ticks for the university. And then after that's done, we're going to go systematically through it from head to tail to look at all the different internal organs. We will collect tissue samples and bring that back to the lab in order to do further analysis. We've had a partnership with the University of Maine since the beginning in 2014 with our analyses, so we can really understand what the cause of death is.
it's kind of hard to process and comprehend that you're coming back to one of these animals that was on its feet, vibrant, running through the woods, and then has fallen to the surmise of winter tick. But at the same time, I think that it's important that we face it and that we do the work that Lee's doing to go in and confirm that the cause of death is what we think it is. I want it to be different.
Hi, big guy. Hi. Oh, that's the stuff, huh, bud? That's the good stuff. Oh, we have people who come to the front gate and they say, "Where's the moose?" And they pay their little admission fee and they come down, see him, and then leave. And I'm always like, "Do you see the black bears, the coyotes, the bobcats?" Like, there's lots of animals along that way, but they just gotta see the moose. That's what they come to see, so. The value of Byron being here in captivity is being able to show people a moose up close. This isn't a tiny little enclosure where he just is standing in place, and this is about 9 acres, so you're gonna see a moose here in captivity doing wild moose behaviors, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. So these shirts we made last night because we knew there was gonna be a moose day today. So we love Byron so much, we're like, we gotta make it stand out to everybody. So we decided to make Byron fan club shirts because we're his biggest fans. Ever since a few years ago when I went to Baxter State Park with my family, I just grew an obsession for moose. And this is the only place you can actually see a moose, like 100% I'm gonna see a moose here. And we've been here 4 times over the last 8 months, and we just love Byron. Moose are just such like an amazing creature that you just don't realize is out there until you really go try to find one. They're just so like, they're giant. It's like crazy to see. They're like gentle giants, like walking along.
When I was in Jackman prior to working for the state, I owned a restaurant, Moose Point Tavern. Of course, everything moose. First thing you walk in, big moose over the bar, right? And then everybody used to take pictures with the moose head, and all my logo wear was moose. People still ask me if I have anything left over. I mean, it's endless. From my perspective as someone in the tourism industry, one of the top reasons people visit Maine is for touring and sightseeing. And part of that, and a very important part of that, is nature tours. And I will say nature tours for all kinds of things. If I'm not mistaken, moose tours are probably hit the top of the list. And as I've promoted the state of Maine over the last 20 plus years of my life, in talking to folks, even those that haven't visited, know sort of the 3 iconic elements of Maine, and it's lobsters, lighthouses, and moose. And we are so fortunate to have that distinction because in the lower 48, it's really Maine.
Yeah, we do see quite a few people that are looking for moose, and they're always asking me, "Have you seen any moose lately?" And I says, "Yeah, I see some in my travels. Some days, depending how far I have to drive, but some days I'll see 3 or 4, and there'll be weeks where I don't see any." But it seems like people really want to see a moose, For me, I grew up here, so if I see a moose, I think it's just a pain in the ass. But I know for a lot of people, they want their kids to see moose, and I'm the same way. I want my grandkids to see moose. And my wife likes to see moose. And she doesn't like to see them on the road, but as long as we're just puttering through the woods, she loves seeing them. I'm not much of a hunter anymore, but I still like to see them,
Given the scale and the scope of the moose woods and the density of moose and the relationship with the abundance of winter tick, really hunting is the most effective tool for managing moose.
There's nothing like the Maine moose hunt. I mean, it's the hunt. I've had one tag in my entire life.
If anyone is lucky enough to go on a moose hunt in Maine, they need to look at it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
There's a limited amount of permits, right? Not everyone can get one.
Those permits go out into a public lottery system. We apply as Mainers as well as everybody from out of state. It's pretty daggone tough to pull a moose tag. It really is.
Pretty good one.
You what?
You got a pretty good
You
one.
did get one?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited. I was like, oh, they're probably just soaked. They're coming back.
Lenny.
Yep.
Daddy got a moose. I got a moose. You were right. Come give me a hug.
Did you get a moose?
Give me a hug. I love you.
I got a man.
Shooting a big moose is fantastic. That's a bonus. But what's bigger? Like, what does bigger mean? You know, yeah, bigger rack. Okay. To me, that just didn't feel like the trophy of the hunt was to shoot the biggest bull we could. The trophy of the hunt was to be absorbed in the moment of the hunt together when it all happened.
Just like that, man.
We get emotional on these hunts because when it finally does all come together, everything just starts breaking down, you know, and you think about all the pieces to the puzzle and the steps you took to get there. I really wanted to share that experience with both my wife and Lenny, you know, and then we were able to bring her in and show her the moose. That was pretty special. I think that stuff is extremely important to show the younger generation. It was just beautiful, it really was.
The Maine moose hunt has become, in many ways, it's kind of a family affair. It's a chance for you to bring your uncle or your brother or your sister, your wife, your husband, or whatever, brotherhood and fellowship. It's also good to have somebody along to help you carry the meat if you have to get a critter out from a bog or somewhere. And it's a wonderful opportunity to bring back some wonderful memories.
We've done a really good job of protecting moose for the purpose of hunting, but also for recreation and for people like me. I will never pick up a gun in my life. But I absolutely recognize the value of hunters who know what they're doing and who are helping to maintain a viable, healthy population.
I think it's important to realize as hunters, we are part of a bigger system. Maine is very unique in that we still go and tag our animals that then can become available for observation.
I have a hunter harvest data set where I'm working with Maine moose hunters to collect biological samples, so blood, tissue, fecal pellets from their harvested animals.
They're looking for weights, they're studying teeth, they're looking for overall health of a species.
Things like their antler spread we can look at in the fall during hunter harvest, and that's not something we're able to look at during live capture in January.
When a bull is brought into the registration station in October, we do a similar tick count as to what we do during the capture and during mortalities.
We also have a wider range of animals in the hunter harvest data set, so we have animals going all the way up to 15 and a half years old. In the live capture data set, we're really getting animals as calves or they're classified as adults. We don't have an exact age on them.
We use that data as a prediction of how many moose or overwintering calves we may lose due to ticks in the springtime.
We've taken a bit of a different or unique approach than a lot of other wildlife agencies where we have a biologist whose sole role is to become the expert about a species and dedicate their careers to learning everything they can about the species to make sure that that population continues to thrive.
Science is a process. Part of that process is asking questions. And in the process of trying to find answers to those questions, we ask new questions.
We spent a solid 7 years looking at adult cow and calf survival, and then when you get towards the end of that study, what is the next step? We know that winter tick is the driver behind mortality. What are we going to do about that, right? The denser the moose population, the denser or the more abundant winter tick is. So we're going to have to look at other ways to try to break the tick cycle, and that is something that I've proposed in a third phase, if you will, on moose research.
Lee captured a few moose this summer to do a field trial on a new type of collar that actually sends out data on an hourly basis. Instead of looking at survival, mortality, which is 2 locations a day, you have many more GPS fixes. We're talking 10 times a day. So you can really hone in on where she's spending her time in the spring when she has adult winter ticks on her that are reproducing and are going to lay eggs wherever they drop. We're going to go there in the fall and we're going to count ticks. And we're going to try to figure out, is there a rhyme or reason
to where the abundance of those ticks are and where they're getting on those moose. If there's some rhyme or reason that we can predict, then we can make recommendations on how those woods are cut to minimize the ticks that are on the landscape by dispersing those moose out on the landscape more so that they're not going to pick up tens of thousands of ticks.
You can't think of Maine without thinking about the moose. You just can't. You can't even think of Maine without the moose. If we lose that, we've lost something we'll never get back again, and that's the soul and heart of this state.
Moose represent to me like a small piece to a big puzzle in the North Maine woods, you know what I mean? And that piece, if it's missing, you never complete the puzzle, you know what I mean? And I feel like moose always have a place in Maine. They just are just a Maine animal, you know? You see, you know, coffee mugs and all these different things in little gift shops and everything, and they always have like a little silhouette of a moose on it.
I was holding my granddaughter just the other day, and she's 4 months old. She was chewing on a teething toy. She's starting to get her teeth. And I looked down, and of course it was a moose.
I can go and have an amazing experience with a moose in the natural world and be free of everything else in that moment.
You know, I've seen, you know, literally thousands of moose, and but I never take that for granted. It's still an animal that is important to me and to Maine and to our agency.
It's critical for people to know that you have state government working on something as important to the people of the state as a moose, and doing it from a scientific perspective to try to gain understanding of this species that, like we said before, goes across all kinds of different people that they admire and love for different reasons. And you know, the department's responsibility is to conserve and manage all these wildlife species, including moose, for future generations. And really, again, we've said this before, but the only way to do that is using science to help guide and direct how to manage this species for the people of the state of Maine.
Somebody raised the question of Maine without moose. And the more I think about that, the more how sad I would feel if that were the case. Moose are unique. They're homely and they're awkward and they're ungainly, but they're massive, they're big and they're tough, and they're in their homeliness they have a beauty, and they just they're very special critters that we don't want to be without.
The idea of moose is something that feels very complete to me. We have sections of Maine that just really don't have moose. And when I'm there, I'm at peace in the sense that I'm in the woods and I'm surrounded by a lot of things that I really appreciate. But in the lack of moose, I feel that I'm not whole. So to live with or to contemplate the idea of not having moose, I'm not interested in that. And I think really in the end, for me, I see a community that holds such regard for the species. And then I see the department asking very difficult and hard questions. I'm very optimistic about the future for moose in the state of Maine.